In a universe so big, God can feel far away, and we wonder if it's possible to shrink the space between Him and us.
Hey guys, welcome back to Link Groups tonight. Depending on whether or not you guys did the first session with your small groups, this could be the second or third week of Closer, but we're glad you're here to talk about being close to God, to talk about removing some of that distance between you and God so that you can get closer to Him. When I think about distance, I think about closeness. Obviously, I think about my wife because me and her are as tight as it gets when it comes to closeness. As Forrest Gump would say, we're like peas and carrots. Me and my wife, to be more cliche, Jerry Maguire, complete each other. It's funny how that works. All of my weaknesses are her strengths. All of her weaknesses are my strengths. And it just comes together. So we're close. But there's times when we don't feel very close. There's times when we feel distant from one another. One of those times for my wife, I can't speak for myself, but one of those times for my wife, I know when she feels distance between me and her is when I'm watching television. Because she can be talking to me, and at first she's got my attention and I'm looking right at her. But as she continues to talk, my head slowly turns to the television. And then I'm in this zone where all I see is Panthers touchdown! And she's been talking to me for 30 minutes and I have no clue what she's talking about. And she'll look at me, she says, "Do you know what I just said?" And then of course, like any guy, right? You guys who have girlfriends, you know how this works, or you guys with your parents, you try to fake it. You know, you try to, "Yeah, babe, I know what you were talking about. It's, yeah, that one thing. Yeah, it was awesome." And you start laughing and she's like not buying it one bit. And what I've learned is with my wife, if I'm not giving her that attention, if I'm not giving her that quality, focused time every day, there grows a distance where I become more attached to things that aren't important and she becomes less attached to me. And we can't have that. We can't have that in our marriage. That distance stinks. For you guys, I probably can relate it to friends a little bit better. You've probably had that friend you were really, really close to. And kind of like in that movie Up, where the dog is talking, all of a sudden, a squirrel. They had one of those moments where you don't know what happened, but the closeness just automatically got redirected. And they started in a different direction. Maybe it was a different hobby. Maybe it was a different group of friends. Maybe it was a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And I've seen you guys. I've been with you guys for the last 5 years. And I've noticed some of you guys are really close friends, but then a boyfriend enters the picture or a girlfriend enters the picture, and then you're no more friends because all your time is now redirected in another direction. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, so to speak, but it does create distance. And you may not have wanted to create that distance, but somehow it got there. Distance. That's a big issue when it comes to God. It's a big issue when it comes to you and God, because we know as we read the Bible, we know in our own personal lives and our souls when we talk to God, think of God, go to church, or even drift from God, that if we're not close to God, if there's distance between us and God, it's not good. It's a bad thing, and it leaves you feeling hollow. It leaves you feeling wanting. It leaves you wondering, there's got to be something more. And of course, you're told that something more is God, but why is it so hard to get close to God? Why is it so hard to bridge that distance? And what is it exactly that's caused that distance? Perhaps there's been a time in your life, like when you went to camp, or you went to a mission trip and you felt really, really close to God. I mean, you were on that mountaintop with God, but as soon as you got back home, certain circumstances happened which drove that distance apart from you and God again. That it could have been television. It could have been video games. It could have been hobbies. It could have been relationships. It could have been a plethora of different things that caused you to break that closeness with God and go a distance from Him. In the walk with Christ, we really call that one word: sin. You say, well, Chevy, you mentioned hobbies and video games and television, and that's not sinful in and of itself. You're right, but anything that causes us to grow further away from God is sin. Sin is anything. It's not murder, necessarily murder or adultery or all those things that you might think, stealing or lying, all those things you might put in the Ten Commandments. It's anything that drives you further away from God, which of course all those things drive you further away from God, so that's why there's sin. But even little things that you don't always recognize, like sports. Man, sports can become our God. And whenever it becomes our God, it brings us closer to sports, but it drives us further away from God. And it could be movies. And you guys know how much I love stinking movies. And just in this video, I've quoted probably 5 of them. All right? You guys know I love movies. But if movies take over my life, if I'm not going to do what God's called me to do because I have to go see The Force Awakens for the 12th time, there might be an issue there, where there's distance between me and God. And that movie's not bad, but that movie can become bad if it takes me a distance from God. And you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. There's stuff in your life tonight that has caused you to move further away from God. And it might not necessarily be what you'd consider really sinful stuff, but if it's driving you further away from God, it's sin. And you've got to get that taken care of tonight, because you have to find a way as a Christian, as somebody who calls himself a follower of Christ, you have to find a way to get closer to Jesus. And that might mean for you tonight removing some stuff that causes a distance. All right, guys. Hey, we're going to let your small group leader or your coach take it from here, but I want you guys to know I love you, and we'll see you next time. Bye.